Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
We are back for another episode session. Listen to me like we're in a therapy session here. Maybe it is.
Anytime you're with me, my friend. Anytime you're with me.
We're here with another episode of Beyond the Frontline, and I am doing the intro. I'm stepping in for a change because you always hear Mr. Polish voice, so I thought you could hear the other voice for a change, and I'm here with my brother from another mother, Mr. Jay Johnson.
What's happening? Yeah, I don't know that I always step in and you say polished. It's a little bit like sandpaper and gravel.
No, you have that I always told you, if somebody could visualize us talking and they didn't know what we look like, you are this robust, full voice, and then there's me. And so I'm like, it would be like the fat kid and the skinny kid.
No, that's not true.
Oh, my Lord. Every time I hear your voice, I'm like, man, if I could do that. I don't. I have my voice.
You do just fine, and we're good in this space together. You know what's funny, Don? I'm getting ahead of us probably. Forgive me, but I got to meet your parents.
You did get to meet the parents.
Over the Christmas break, and it was just funny when I shook your mother's hand and said, "Hi, I'm Jay," and she immediately had a reaction and said, "Oh, you're the face behind the voice, and you sound in person just like you sound on the podcast."
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, when I listened to our podcast, Donna, right, tying back to you just talking about voices and tonality and all that, I think I sound totally different when I listen to myself.
We all do.
So, anyways, it was funny that your mom said
that. Oh,
that.
she was all excited because I said, hey, we're going to go up. And for the audience, just so you know, Jay and I are always have our fingers into something, and we always help each other out. So this podcast, that's where some of this started, was me calling him when I got offered the job, so to speak. And I said, hey, do you want to do a podcast? He's like, sure, why not? And then he decides one day, hey, I'm going to manage a fireworks store twice a year. Want to help? Sure, why not? And third season, right?
Yeah, well, fifth season, third year. And
that's right.
The things we get involved in, Donna, it's true. I mean, you've always been there for me, number one. And so, I get myself into some situations, and then you're usually the one that comes in. And
I throw my kid at you. My kid's all excited. Brady's just totally pumped now that he gets to make some bucks off of Mr. J. It's like, can work for him.
First job. Maybe not his first job, but, it's good to...
I'd say first-ish job. He mows lawns and does that stuff, but this is, he liked it, boy. When that check came over, he was like, oh.
Yeah, it was fun having him. I look forward to having him in the future.
Yeah,
that'll be for future conversation. Again, we'll talk about some of the crazy little things we do on the side. What's happening in your world, though, Donna? You got a lot cooking right now.
Everything's cooking. Holy cow! Like if you could visualize it, I'd have every pot on the oven on full and boiling. I'm like, damn.
In the oven running and the range.
Oh, yeah. And the smoke alarm's going off, and it's just wild right now. And I love it. I mean, you and I kind of run a little bit with our hair on fire, and that's kind of what, we're a little bit of adrenaline junkies, so.
A little bit.
We're probably too broke to jump out of a plane, but we can do it other ways.
Yeah. I don't mind. Today, I don't mind jumping off a tall curb, but my days jumping up.
Even that's risky sometimes.
Yeah, well, for me, that's true.
So I've got, let's see, what's going on. We launched Transitioning Warring Veteran Breakfast.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was the biggest one that took off, and so we did that as the first of hopefully many, but we're starting small. We're starting with one. It was very successful. We got the second one coming up the 9th of February. Just put some advertisement out. And then kind of getting all that going, getting sponsorship, getting, speakers and getting nonprofits engaged and all that good stuff. And then if that isn't enough to take up most of my day, then I'm helping out launching what's coming next for Coming Home Well, which is the Coming Home Well or the CHW radio stream.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that'll be launching in February. So you'll hear our voices a little bit more.
Yeah, you and I tinkered a little bit, right, on that platform. And we thought it was a really smooth, easy, and the sound quality is really good. So what's good for our listeners is going to be great.
Yeah, there's an app that is out. If you're listening, I'll tell you a secret. You actually can download it right now on Google or on Apple, and you can listen, but it's only in beta right now. It is not officially launched. We're just testing it out, getting schedules up, seeing how it's going. So it's not the final anything, but if you want to listen to it, it's there. It's got rock and country music, like something more veterans kind of relate to. And then it's got all our podcasts. They'll be coming on throughout the week and the weekend. And they'll have podcasts from our sister network, which is Whole Care Network. Whole Care Network is all towards caregivers. And so we cross podcast on their stream. They're going to cross podcast on our stream. And then we're bringing on all kinds of shows, even people that we've interviewed, believe it or not. Do you remember Alicia Brown when we had that interview on Federal Resumes? Well, she's actually going to be doing a short piece on the radio on just that, Federal Resumes and little small bites that people can utilize. We have a cooking show coming on, like some kind of history of cooking. We have legacy shows coming on for like Vietnam veterans. We're doing specialty music hours. Like there's going to be one that's going to be, is it Rock Mayhem? They haven't named it yet, but basically it's all going to be geared towards like all that heavy metal, death metal, or heavy rock. There'll be an hour like that. There's going to be a little of everything.
That's taken me back to my, youthful years as a teenager in the 80s.
Right. That's because that's the average age of all the veterans.
Yeah.
Majority
true.
of them, not all. I know there's some baby ones out there. And actually, the person that's doing the Rock Mayhem cracks me up because she is 10 years younger than me, maybe a little bit more. And I was like, dang, you like this? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
That's fun.
You go. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and it's just wild. I mean, I was a nurse. Here I am helping set up a radio stream. So
yeah, look, you've grown branches, deeper roots, and figuring some things out and involved in a lot of things. And it kind of goes back, Donna, I think, to that conversation you and I've had before, which is just, you got to keep moving, right? Yeah. Because when you're moving, you're giving yourself opportunities to have more kind of come into your field of view. When you're just starting anything out, the vision or the forward-looking aspect of it is pretty narrow, but the more you move, the wider it gets, the more you take in, the more you become aware of, and it's much easier to keep moving than to start moving. So the key is to start and then keep moving and
not be afraid. I mean, that probably my bane and my asset is that I don't have a lot of fear. Like I'm like, I'll try it. Why not? I mean, a couple times I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I couldn't do that. And then, here I am, podcast 2 years later, and I'm like, oh, what's the worst that's going to happen? It doesn't work very well. Maybe I step away from it. I mean, nobody's dying.
I think compared to things we've done, Donna, it's relative, right? Compared to things we've done things that truly carried risk of life. And so the things we're talking about now, when we really just put it in clarity and think about it, there's not much we're doing today that is putting us in harm's way or anyone else in harm's way.
It's funny you say that. Two things came to my head. I'm like, yes, because like the day I'm on the plane and all the circuit breakers pop and we don't know why, and we're stuck in Bosnia and we got to take a 1:30 home, and then the gears lock, meaning we can't get them up. And I remember that day so distinctly. I had injured soldiers from a motor vehicle accident. I had a true psych patient in a straitjacket, like no kidding. I had all this stuff.
That wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. No, not that one. And anyways, I just remember we were getting ready to land, and the load looks at me, and she comes over and says, "Ma'am, I just want to let you know that we had gears that didn't come up last week too. I wasn't on the flight, but it was another 130, and they locked it the best they could. Just for the audience, just so you know, on a 130, if you just think of like a screw, like the wheels kind of like screw up into the plane and kind of screw down, and sometimes they get stuck, and so they have to put locks on, and that if it gets stuck, to make sure it doesn't fail." And she said, "We even put the locks on." And she goes, "It belly flopped down the runway." That's not what you want to hear when you're coming in for taxi and you got sick people and equipment everywhere. And you're like, okay, is this the end for me? Just make it quick.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a pilot, of course, although I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express.
I was a flight nurse. I wasn't a pilot.
Yeah, to me, it seems like I would much rather have the wheels stuck in the down position. I realize that creates
Than the up position, right?
Great for actual flying, but for the purpose of landing, I kind of would like them to be there and not stuck in the up position.
Yeah, agreed. And so I was like, damn. So yeah, right. If you compare your life to that,
yeah,
it's, I go to acupuncture, and I had the therapist, I said to her, I was like, God, I had a migraine for 2 days. I cannot figure out why. And she goes, well, any stress? I'm like, no, I mean, I didn't feel any stress. And I had an all-day basketball game for my daughter that I was at, like a tournament, and we didn't get home till late. And then the next morning I had the launch of the veteran breakfast, so I had to prepare late. And it was just like this ongoing thing. But I said, it was just stuff, it wasn't stressful. And she laughed at me and she goes, okay, listen. She goes, your life in the military was high stress 24/7. And she said, it doesn't mean what's going on now isn't stressful. You just don't compare it to what you think stressful is.
Yeah, that's
she goes,
true.
so your body still can respond. And of course, I'm like, oh, please. But she probably had a point.
I think there's relevance in that. Honestly, I've done acupuncture before too, and I'm not a needle fan. These are really thin. Tiny.
I love acupuncture.
Yeah, it did well for me. Not something I do actively like you do, but I have other ways of doing it. But yeah, I think that's true, Donna. We all experience stress and process it differently, and for veterans have come out of these high stress situations like you're describing. Yeah. I think it's you still have stress, you just don't process it in the same way. So.
And I had this conversation with somebody, and I said, in the military, we don't have stress, we embody stress. Like that's what we live in. Like we live in stress.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Constant, right? We are on 24/7. Like if, when the news starts kicking and things aren't going well and you're like, oh boy, in the back of your head, am I going to be called? You start looking at your bags, you're kind of preparing.
Yes, spinning up.
You're constant. You're constantly that. So we embody it. So when we step away and we get away from that, then a stressful event happens. We feel it even more. And this just happened to me the other day. I was in a meeting. I was kind of dreading the meeting. It doesn't even matter who it was with, because I'm not out to shame anybody, but it didn't go well. And we had this meeting, and I was feeling like one of the people in there was being pretty aggressive in conversation. It was like their way or the highway. They're the boss. You're all going to be, and this is nonprofit. So I'm like, geez, like I work with a lot of nonprofits and executive directors and board members, and nobody acts like that.
Hero, settle down.
Well, I made the comment like, hey, since we've started this meeting, I feel like you've been pretty aggressive towards me. Immediately hung up. Whoa. Did not expect that. I just sat back for a minute. I talked to the other person that was there. They had a different view than I did. And I said, they're like, well, I don't think maybe this is a match. And I said, I would probably agree. This probably isn't a good match, but I wish you guys the best. I hope it all goes well, et cetera, et cetera. Because I did make the comment, I'm like, it concerns me that behavior is not going to lend to you guys being successful.
Yeah.
And they didn't take that well. They were not happy with it. Well, anyways, get off the phone. Boy, it took me an hour or two to just kind of settle down. Normally, I would have, in the military, been like, fuckers, something like that. And I would have just walked off. This actually, it took me a little while to chill out from.
Yeah. Maybe in those situations, you can just say, can I have your mailing address? I'm going to send you a copy of Emotion Intelligence 2.0. There's an assessment in there you can take that. That's passive aggressive, right?
It's just crazy. But
kind of a nice way of pointing out to them, dude, you've got some emotional maturity to
a lot of it.
I know you're referring to don't need to know, but
no. It's just the point.
There are some people out there completely unaware of the way they come across to people.
Yeah. That was, and it was kind of a test for me because when I knew what I was saying, and I was kind of pushing back a little, and I was interested in the response, and I didn't expect the complete hang up. I did expect the excuse me, but it was more. And I was like, okay.
Well, the hang up piece is another sign of emotional immaturity.
Immaturity, yeah. But for me, I hadn't been in any battles for so long because when I'm working with people, I have people that are like, yes, how do we make it happen? And yes, it's always yes for me, which is so opposite of what I felt like in the military. It was my first hard no. And I was like, woo, okay. Then I felt that stress. Oh, yeah, moving on. I mean, I moved on, but it was interesting to actually feel stress versus my normal, which would be like, whatever, and not feel that.
Well, and not knowing anything else, and we can move beyond this.
Yeah.
It had less to do with you and more to who they are. And I bet manifest itself in many other places in their life and many other relationships, and what a shame because they're really stifling opportunity and the ability to make an impact. So they'll learn, or they'll get out of the industry and business of whatever it is they're doing.
They have a great mission. I mean, it's all, but it's unfortunate. So anyway, but the point was just now feeling stress, right? I'm like, ooh, now I feel that versus, So, all right. Should we just look back? I think we should kind of just look back a little bit. Speaking of...
Can I maybe share one last thing?
Yeah, please do.
It's just weighed on my spirit. I don't know why. You probably saw this too, but Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, number 5.
Gaylord, yes!
Gaylord passed away yesterday.
Respect, yes. I just saw that.
The best speaker I've ever heard in my life, bar none. Now, look, I'm a Les Brown fan and Simon Sinek, Maxwell, Tony. We can just throw all these speaker names. People know. Bob Gaylord was the best communicator, speaker I ever saw in my life. In the room with him on several occasions, listening to him speak, and of course, long retired, and in his 90s, was still hosting these online Facebook sessions. As the chief and sharing wisdom, and he would do that every Wednesday night with the chief, I think he called him. But anyways, I just saw that, and so I just thought I'd say to our Air Force brethren, right, men and women, whoever crossed paths with that amazing man.
He was. I heard him speak once, and I agree. He was pretty incredible. Yeah.
He lived a full life, but just wanted to honor his memory by giving a shout out to him.
Yeah, lots of thoughts and prayers to his family too.
Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. When you said that, I was like, I just saw that. I'm living under a rock lately, I feel like. I see the news.
Well, it was just yesterday. It
was. But yeah, I agree. So
good to remember those that came before as you were getting ready to tee up.
Well, speaking of remembering, I think we should look back on the year a little bit because I think that we had an incredible year. And we met a lot. We always meet a lot of people. Yeah.
You're a social butterfly now. I mean,
oh Lord, nothing compared to you.
Text me with excitement, Jay. You won't believe who I just met. This person will be amazing for the podcast and can't wait for us to talk about it. And no, you're right. We had some really, really cool stories and speakers and sessions over the last year. And I asked you as we were just prior to stepping into this session, Donna, I said, "What? How long have we been doing this now? Like a year and a half?" And you said, "Jay, it's been 2 years." And
2 years.
then I looked at myself in the camera and I thought, "Oh, I look every bit of that 2 years."
I'm going to look this up. I'm going to pull. You do not. Oh, Lord.
Big bags under my eyes, and
You got to sleep.
yeah, how much time we put into trying to bring our listeners, compelling stories and inspirational stories. What are you looking up? What are you pulling up for everybody?
So I am pulling up right now. I was looking at our stats. I'm a little stat nerd. And I was looking at the number, like our most popular podcasts that we had. And I will tell you the one that surprises me, not in a bad way, but just surprised me, the Veteran Treatment Court Wrap-Up.
Oh, it was such a good series. But you're saying to me what you're looking at right now, the wrap-up has been one of the more engaging sessions. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we had the most downloads of all time, of all our podcasts. That was our big, and that actually surprised me because I was like, well, who just wants to hear Jay and I yap? I thought they'd like.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. So maybe we're setting ourselves up for our next big download. People are tuning in going, have you listened to the dorks? Like, I shouldn't call you a dork. Have you listened to Donna and the dork?
We're dorks. It's okay. Yeah. We're dorks. So... But I mean,
tell by now, Donna, listening into this one, they're like, these two are just freelancing today. They are like reservation and whatever's coming to their heart and mind, they're bringing it forth. So stay tuned, keep listening, because there's more silliness to
God knows, right? We'll come up with the two of us. Yeah. No, I was actually surprised. So we did this series, and it started very randomly.
It did. That's true.
Didn't it? Like it was very. So it started with way back. So it started with a breakfast out in Spring Branch. And I had a service member that I met, and I had him come out and he spoke. He was a Marine. And when I learned about what he did, he worked for the Veteran Treatment Court in San Antonio. Yeah. All right. Short version is that we ended up connecting with Veteran Treatment Court in Comal County. And just for our listeners, it's just the county above Bexar County, which Bexar County is where San Antonio is. So it's one county above there. And started working with them. I started working with them. And we did we were blessed to do an entire series. We got to interview Judge Stevens, who runs it. And we got to interview Mike Fogarty, who was in charge of all the mentors. And Laura Balo, who's the court coordinator. And then Genevieve, who was the probation officer. Yep. And then we got to interview, which was probably one of the funniest damn interviews we did, George Wolf.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun. That's true.
Just for the audience, if you haven't listened to the podcast, you should go back and listen to it. I don't know if we said it in the podcast, but we were struggling to logistically meet with him. He had some health issues going on. And so I reached out and said, are you ready for the podcast today? He goes, ma'am, small problem. I'm actually still in the hospital with this infection. And I went, how are you feeling? Well, I feel great. I'm just getting, antibiotics and stuff. And I don't know what came over me, but I was like, hey, you were going to do this on your phone anyway, right? Yeah, I was. I'm like, you want to do it in the hospital?
Yeah, so we literally, you and I are, together, and yet we've got him pulled up right there in his hospital room, and we did the episode. That was very unique.
It was hilarious, and then what caught my attention, and then I was like, uh-oh, a nurse came into the room, and I couldn't see the nurse specifically, but I saw an arm come across the front of him, and I saw them grab something, And all I thought was like, oh my God, please don't say they're medicating him. Well, that's exactly what they did. They medicated him. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is going to get interesting.
Yeah, it was already interesting, and then
Oh,
they
he was
pushed meds.
great.
So,
Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't push anything very heavy. He was a
yeah,
very good interview. And so if you
he
have a
was.
chance, go listen to George Wolf. But what made him very interesting in his story is that he was a participant in the Veteran Treatment Court
Yeah.
and then became a mentor afterwards. And it's his story of that. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Well, even Judge Stevens, when we interviewed the judge and said we're going to have, somebody on that's actually stood before you, and the relationship those two gentlemen share today, or
Yes.
at least the fondness of one another that
Yes.
they have, all of that, it made for a compelling little series of episodes we did. So I do hope listeners, if you're listening to this, you should go back and listen to that. I like to think, Donna, that we've brought a lot of really good stuff
Oh,
uh,
we did.
to listeners. We always covet feedback. I feel like you and I end our episodes asking for them,
Begging.
yeah, to smash that like button, to share, to follow, and to interact with us and share ideas. But that was a really, really fun series.
That was. I learned a ton in it.
Me
And
too.
then we ended it. I mean, we ended up with our wrap up, but just before that, we got the opportunity to interview somebody that didn't have the opportunity for the Veteran Treatment Court because
Or,
it didn't exist.
yeah,
And that was Carla
she
Bug.
would have taken advantage of it. She said had it been there, but
Yeah, yeah. So Carla Bug,
yeah,
we interviewed her after George. George was episode 40, I think, and then 41 was Carla. And it was an interesting perspective. And to see this woman that is thriving right now and to look at her, and she's so graceful and she's so well put together. You can't even imagine that this woman did, was it 20 years? I cannot remember the exact number, but she did, I think it was a total of 20 years incarcerated. She had 5 children.
it was a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was definitely in there a while. I don't remember the
So
exact
that's
number.
her story on episode 41, and that's incredible. I mean, she's advocating for veteran justice and more advocacy for veteran treatment courts and helping these veterans and giving them a second chance. Because a lot of times when they get in trouble, it's coping, right? They're coping with things they shouldn't be. And then they make some bad choices and then it can just spiral downhill from there,
Yep. Well,
So,
we've talked about this again. I don't want to stray too far off the path, but again, our listeners are already in this with us, so they know we're we're all over the map. We think about homelessness,
uh-huh.
which which I think today the proper way of saying that we call it being unsheltered, people who are unsheltered,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that there's a veteran uh, part of that as well. Crisis is probably fair to say there's a lot of homeless vets.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that Sherry and I talk about often, and I feel like you and I've had this conversation too, Donna, and this is where we could just have more compassion for people, is no one wakes up. No one wakes up and says, I think I'm going to be homeless.
Right.
It's a series of choices. This is how I tie the bow around it. You were just talking about we get in these states where there's something we're dealing with, we don't get it addressed, and it can compound in our life and manifest as more, challenging things. And choices are, of course, a part of that. But no one wakes up and says, I think I'm going to make this bad decision today, which is going to alter my life. It's what we do on the back end of that choice, whatever it was that led us to do something out of character. And so, yeah, you and I had some really amazing, transparent people come sit in this space with us and share their heart and share their story and own some stuff that was theirs to own, and then have this beautiful part on the back end of that as how it's changed them and how they're giving back.
That you segued perfect because that's what I was going to talk about. Our second highest download was
Oh,
actually James Eastland.
oh, James is such a good human being.
And James is the embodiment of learning from other people's mistakes or other people's not so awesome choices.
Yeah, true.
He grew up in a household of uh, abuse, and saw what it was doing, and somehow was, hands were reaching out, and he took them and found his way. He ended up in the Marines for a short time, about 6 years, I think. And where he is now and what he's doing. And I don't even want to give it away, but you really need to listen to that one, episode 29.
Yeah, go back, everybody.
Yeah, episode 29, James Eastland. He's an ultra marathoner, and you need to go listen and find out what he's doing with his really good fitness as an ultra marathoner. He's actually doing some fundraising for an amazing cause. And so listening to him, because he straight up told us, he's like, I have a brother that made other choices and he's just going back to jail right now. And I don't think it came out on the episode. He meant to say it. And this isn't to sensationalize, but he was making the point of these bad choices. His brother got involved in drugs and whatnot, and it resulted in the murder of his grandmother. And I say that just for an impact in the sense of, like, think about that. Your choices just become so poor. Your coping becomes so poor. You now are doing things that you're probably never, ever in a million years would do in a, intact state of mind.
Sure.
So anyway, but yeah, James is amazing. I mean, we love him. He just lightens the room when he walks in, doesn't he? You actually make me giggle. When we bring on guests, I always know, and I'll say most of the time, Jay loves the guests, but Jay will tell you that people energize him. And I'll tell you, you come on a podcast with us and watch him when we do interviews, and I get it. By the time we're done, Jay is like smiling, and he's like, that's really good. And he's all energized and like ready to go. And so it's funny because some people could say that doing all this can suck the life out of you, but I would say the complete opposite. It's almost like therapy for you. And I would say for me too, because when you hear this stuff, I'm like, well, shit, I am a hot mess, but okay, I'm not doing so bad. They did it. They're coming through. Okay.
Well, you get to see me, Donna, in a way that our listeners don't, right? I mean, you get to see me physically on screen, if you will.
Well, right now.
So even today, right? I step in, you're like, dang, dude, you're okay. You look tired. And I'm like, man, I'm tired. I'm old.
I'm old.
I'm grumpy. Yeah. But you're right. And then you get in this space and you start sharing and something shifts. But certainly other people's stories of overcoming, of giving back. I mean, there's this old saying, Don, I bet this has come out in a previous episode. I just said this to one of my coaching clients this morning, is it's hard to wallow in our own challenges when we are in servitude to others, right? So we all face challenges and have things going on in our life, but when we get outside of ourselves and start doing for others, it's hard to sit there and be downtrodden about the things in our life that aren't going well, and it just changes us as a person. So me being the quote machine that I am, this literally also.
Yes, you are.
As my spirit. I think it was Mother Teresa that said, people are hard to love. Love them anyway. Right? And so there's something magical that happens in that when you just love people. The good, the bad, the sometimes not so pleasant. Just love people. And when you're in community with people, it changes us as human beings.
People are always taking away, consciously, subconsciously, they're always taking away from other people. I don't mean taking from them. I just mean learning something from them constantly, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I said, if you go back 3 years, and Jay was the one that would like drag me out, and he was readily admit, he'd see me sit in the corner. I'd be like, oh, Jesus, here we go. A networking event. And he'd be like, come on out. And I'm like, that's your thing. And I'd go hide in the corner.
That's your thing.
Seriously. I'd be like, God. And I would. And it's not that I wouldn't talk to people. If somebody talked to me, I'd chirp away. But for me to get in there, I just had this like kind of block of like, oh, what am I going to say to him? Like, hey, I'm starting a business, I mean, I didn't know. I was just kind of like everywhere. So I do what I do best when I have no clue. I just sit and watch and just, okay. For as much as I talk, I always kind of scare people to say I actually observe twice as much. But says a lot because I talk a lot.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary.
I know,
No,
right?
but that's true. You're really good today, Donna. That's true. You're really good at just, forgive the way I'll describe it. I like visuals though. You're in people's soup. Like you have no problem going up
I
and
just had a visual.
saying to someone, "Hey, tell me about you. Tell me about. I heard you say this. I'd love to know more about that." And yeah, you're much more proactive today.
I just had a vision of me in a scuba gear coming out of somebody's bowl of soup, going, "Hi."
That's a great visual. That might be a future book cover for you.
Right, my next
You
book.
in a scuba mask, a snorkel, emerging from a bowl of soup.
Coming out of the soup. Yeah, there it is.
I like it. Well, how
Gosh.
about this, Donna? I mean, we only touched on a couple things. I know there were a lot of really juicy is the word I'm going to use. I like that visual too, right? Juicy episodes that we got to do last year. And more than anything, if you're even one of our past guests listening to this is with, all affection and appreciation. I love the rawness, the
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, the willingness to just step into the space and have people share. We got some things we're trying to do for our listeners in 24 to continue to up the game, right? What weighs on your heart and mind when I say that? What kinds of things are you thinking you're really excited about getting people in the space with us here to share?
I think it's more about getting them to realize that they have it within them. Like all this stuff that we're doing and that we get involved in. Like I joke all the time. I'm like, my calendar looks like an LGBTQ flag. There's so many colors in it with my kids' stuff and my stuff and my husband's stuff. And we're always coordinating schedules. And so I'll hear people like, oh my God, how do you do all that? Well, I don't know. You just kind of do something and you tack a little something more on and, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not special. Maybe that's the bottom line of all that. We're not special. I am nobody special. Donna Hoffmeyer, country girl, raised in northern New Hampshire, population at the time 2,100 and slipping quickly. I think they're at 1,200. Farm girl, I mean.
2099 because you left.
Right, right. And so there was, and I, went to college, did the military. I didn't do anything special. I'm curious. I want to become a nurse because I want to see more of the world. I want to. I joined the military so I could see more of the world. I was curious. I think you and I have talked about that. We're just curious, right? Like, and we don't have a lot of fear. And I understand, there can be some anxiety getting into something that you've never done. But when I taught college, I used to say the same thing to my students all the time. If you can learn to make learning fun, it all becomes very easy. If you can always remember that you're just learning and that it's always fun to be the new person. I love being the new person because my favorite thing is, I don't know. Can you tell me? It's okay because as you learn and you build and then you eventually become more of an expert, in whatever it is you're doing. But everybody has a starting place. Everybody. Tony Robbins has not always been Tony Robbins at his level.
Yeah.
He
yeah,
was,
Yeah. I heard John Maxwell say this once. He was talking about he finished speaking at a conference and afterwards he's just kind of mingling around and he said, some much younger person came up to him and said, "Boy, I'd love to do what you do." And John said, I just looked at him and said, "That's great. Are you willing to do what I did?"
yeah,
Right? Meaning,
the work.
there's no such thing as overnight success. It's in the action. It's in the putting it into practice and learning along the way, and through that you evolve. And yeah, you're right, Donna. So it's true. Humble beginnings, and the work you're doing today isn't something you initially sought to do, but then it kind of captured your heart, and then now you're thriving in this environment of connecting people and connecting people to resources and getting people help, and it's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun for me as a friend, close proximity to get to see some of that and watch it take off.
I
That's fun.
even saw on your side when you and I met, you
Yeah.
were how many years into your job at your
Well,
entrepreneur?
for the work I do today. You mean like coaching and speaking and training, that kind of stuff?
Well, the training, you were doing the
Yeah.
training.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 10 years into my
So when we met, you were like
in
probably
business.
5 years,
That's
roughly, somewhere
that's
around
probably
there,
true.
right?
Yeah, yeah. 5 or 6.
And I didn't know you from Adam. You were coming in actually doing.
I'd never met you.
Nope, we were doing leadership training. I nicely gave you an earful about my thoughts on things, and and then we became friends. And then I watched. Well, let's see. Then I retired, and then you watched me go through all that,
Yeah.
and then you got me into things. Jay's very good at subtly getting
Bamboozling.
bamboozling's a
Bamboozling.
good word, yeah. Started these things, and then at the time he was starting these things, and it was a lot of volunteer stuff. Let me just make that clear. So we were doing stuff with the chamber, we were starting a veteran committee. There was all these things that was going on, and he was leading these things. He was on a library board. He got me into these things, right? I'm like, okay. And why did I do it? Because I knew Jay. Okay, Jay, we'll bop along, right? As a trusted person. And then at that time, I was watching him and I kept warning him. I said, you better back off some of this volunteer stuff. Your job, your business is starting to take off. It was like, I got a call. I asked to go here. I've been asked to do this. And I'm listening and I'm like, And I'm smart in my own way. I could see what was coming and I kept saying Jay. And Jay is the person that wants to give 110% to everything he's doing. And I knew this about him. And I'm just like, Jay. And I'm
Pour it out.
trying to
Pour
be
it
the
out. I'm a firm believer. Pour it out.
Jiminy Cricket on his ear. And I'm just like, dude. And then finally, he was like, holy crap. And he just dumped the stuff he needed to dump. And the stuff he happened to dump was the crap. I'll be nice. He landed it on me, and I ended up I took over. I didn't have to do anything.
That's true.
I
That's true.
chose to take over the stuff that he had started. And we did. And that isn't even the point. The point was just that at 3 years after I got out, well, 2 years, I guess, after I got out, your business started taking off. And it's not like you didn't have things going on. You had steady stuff, but it just went up a level.
Yeah.
And that was how many years in?
Probably
7?
6 years.
6,
I'm
7 years.
guessing 6 where things really just the magic started happening
Right.
without a great deal of effort on my part.
7 years of you not trying, because it's not like you were running around like desperate. You had business. I saw that. People liked you, trusted you. They were engaged with you and all that. But when it really started taking off, it was about 7 years. And I was like, dang. And you said something to me early on, and I understood the words. I just didn't understand it because I wasn't in the middle of it. You said, I could have got my business going faster, but I really wanted to keep it organic. Do I understand the concept? Sure. But I didn't really understand it until I started getting my business going. And I have stepped away from things that felt too fast, mover shaker kind of stuff that I was like, that's not how I roll.
Let me put a visual in everybody's head, right? It's like that shyster that's coming up, grabbing a hold of your hand and trying to tell you about this great thing and pull you in and, asking you to throw some money down on none of that appeals to me, Donna, at all. And I know that doesn't appeal to you. Yeah, just to quickly, tie back to what you were saying, I know I could have built this much faster and bigger, but I was comfortable with the pace. I had the vision. I still want to control my schedule because I think we tend to do the other thing, Donna, right? And I'm not saying I'm doing this great yet, but I am getting better in some ways. But some people let their schedules control them. And I still, even at this point where I'm at, want to control my schedule. I just had this conversation with friends last night that discernment is so important.
Yes.
Knowing who we are, what we're really looking to do, who we like to work with, right? What gives us life rather than drains us of life. So there's times when I really am exhausted mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it may be. A lot of times it may be because I'm starting to get into some domains that I probably shouldn't be in, right? So I have a servant heart, but if you will go back and research some of the most successful people in life, you think of the Jack Welches and some of those guys, they say no to more than they say yes to, and it's
They're
because
selective. Yeah.
they're kind of dialed in on what's important and what's not, and they're unapologetic about it. So
Yeah.
I try to do that in my business.
But it's good though. It's good to that's when I started doing this, that's what I started learning. There were people that were like mover shakers, and I had somebody say to me like, "What's the focus of your business?" And I said, "Well, it's veteran focused on this half, and I'm trying to, bring communities together, et cetera, et cetera." And I was like, "Oh, what's the focus of yours?" And just for context, we were both podcast and so he goes, "Mine's to make money." And I went, "Okay." And that's fine, right? But it doesn't resonate with me because I'm not doing all this for a dollar sign. Trust me, my CPA can tell you that I'm not doing it for the dollar sign.
But there's something else I said to you though. And this is what's weighed on my spirit again right now. And it's something I believe we've said on one of our episodes in the past. Zig Ziglar, right? Zig Ziglar, you can have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to help enough other people.
Right.
He also said something to this effect, which ties into what you were just saying. Somebody said, well, their goal is to make money. Man, I know we need to maintain a livelihood. I get that. And we have our own desires to have nice things, and that changes in qualification depending on who you're talking to. But Zig said, quit chasing money. You'll never catch it. Instead, chase helping people, and money will chase you. So the whole point of it, Don, is, I was kind of saying to you, stay consistent. Stay on point with your heart, with what you're looking to do, because the rest of it will line up for you, and the people will start finding you. And along on the back end of that, through consistency, will come the other part where your livelihood is being taken care of. And it's a passion. It doesn't feel like work.
No, and my best friend said to me one time, we were talking, this was a couple months ago, and she goes, "I am so proud of you." I was like, "Oh, well, thanks." And she goes, "You are creating this, I'm watching you create this authentic network." And she goes, "Do you know how hard that is to do?" And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "I watch you bring in people that want to do the work that you're doing. They're passionate about this." And I said, "Well, maybe I'm selective, but I only want to work with people that really want to do what they're passionate about, I guess." And she goes, "I try to do it in my community, and it's just like, I feel like I fail all the time." And I thought that was just such an interesting comment, and it was a huge compliment to me, because I hope the circle that I keep, and my close circle, is pretty small. I mean, you and maybe a couple other people get to kind of see me when I'm moody or I'm annoyed or like, "Jeez."
I might evoke that out of you more than
you do on occasion.
Maybe Brian.
Yes, y'all do, because y'all got your own way. I'm like, Lord, but we have a common core, and that's where we relate. So I'm going to turn this back to the audience, that we want you guys to understand that when we are doing these podcasts, or when Jay is getting up to do a training session or speaking, or when I'm out there doing a veteran breakfast or connecting people, there is a lot of intent behind it. It is not randomness. It is not, whatever. Maybe I'll get some perks from them. I just had someone find me on Instagram the other day, and I found out where they were located. And I said, "Hey, do you know about this other nonprofit that's like right up the road from you?" "No, I don't." "Well, they do this and you do that. Here, let me send an email to both of you." Yeah. Did it hurt anybody? No. Yes. It took me 5 minutes. And I don't care. They can go off and do amazing things, and I don't need credit for it. It was just good. Like, you'll do better things.
To that point, Donna, some people want to monetize the very breath they take. And it comes across, I don't know any other word, it comes across as disingenuous and sleazy.
Hmm.
And you know, Donna, because you're in the room with me in these ETAPs that
Yeah.
I'm privileged to get to do for the local Air Force Command.
Hmm.
And I say to those men and women, I don't just bring anyone in to put in front of you. Uh, Maybe I've strayed off that path once or twice, but by and large, I vet people really well. I want to know
For the
their
most
heart. I
part,
want
you
to know,
missed your mark
yeah,
once.
yeah, for the most part. I want to know that they're stepping into the
Yes.
room, not to sales pitch these men and women, our senior leaders who are getting ready to transition from active duty. I want them to have a heart to want to come in and share, freely share what they know to these soon to be transitioning veterans' betterment. That's what I want. And
You,
so to me, I think that's what draws the right people to us. Because if someone's just looking to access a veteran to put their hand in their pocket, I'm going to have nothing to do with that.
yeah, we're very protective of the
We are.
veterans. Like
Yeah, very, very
when I'm
protective.
bringing people in, they better be representing. It actually,
Yeah.
I think the way you vet them for the ETEP is perfect. And it's non-threatening, but it's kind of hilarious. And Jay will be, if it's a new person coming in to speak, hey, thanks for being here. Well, this is your first go. This is the expectation. This is the audience. And,
Yep.
if it goes good, and everything works well, maybe we'll have you back. And let me tell you, the response says everything. So if they're like,
Yes.
oh, okay, they're probably on the good side, but there's been the
And there's some
occasional,
I haven't brought back.
right? There's been some that's been like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
an
No, that's true.
expectation there.
Man or
Doesn't
woman, and
matter.
regardless of anything they may have wore on their sleeve or collar as rank, I want them to know that they're getting an opportunity to come
Hmm.
share wisdom and equip. And if they can't do that without throwing down sales pitches or trying to put themselves in some kind of light that is intended to draw them to them, they probably won't get an invite back. Right now, the opposite side of that, though, Donna, you've heard me say this too, to every one of them. I do hope that there's connections made though by these speakers sharing their time, their wisdom,
Absolutely.
their expertise, and what I hope is on a break or something, they're connecting with them and saying, I'd love to stay in touch. I'd love to learn more about what you're
Hmm.
doing. I feel like I could use your services or your help. Fantastic. I want that for everybody. I just don't want any hard sales pitches.
No.
Right.
Well, and
So
we don't even, I mean, we're at ETAP and we don't, it's not what we step forward with. And when
that's
we
true.
do say what we do, because I have two sides of my business,
Yep.
it's quick right behind it to say, we're not sales pitching you. This is just
That's
what
right.
we do. If you want to know, great.
They
We're
need to
not
know
going to
that.
come after you. We're not.
Yeah, no, they need to know what we do. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I'm in complete agreement.
So,
Hey, I was looking at a short list I wrote down, Donna. I don't
hmm,
know if it's appropriate to do so. I want to keep it really high level and not attach names to it. Can I share
yeah.
just kind of some insights on people we think we're going to have in
Yeah.
future episodes? So if we still got a captive audience
You
on
read my
this,
mind. I was going to do
yeah,
that
on
as we
this one,
wrap it up. This is a good one.
if they're still listening, I want them to be hungry and go, man, I got to come back and catch these. I've got a guy who is a retired Army officer that had aspirations for what he thought he was going to do.
Yep.
Uh, but then serendipity settled in. He went to take a class, the class he was going to take. Something fell through, but there was another course available, and it was an acting course, an acting class. And he was like, I guess I'll check that out. And what he ended up finding was something in him that, compelled him to want to be an actor. And now he's been out there auditioning and getting picked up for,
Nice.
some smaller bit roles he professes, but he says, I love everything about it, Jay. It's just fun for me. And my wife has, embraced it, and she is enjoying watching that journey. And then he's a two-time cancer survivor too. He's just got a compelling story.
Yep.
So he's already said, "Yeah, I want to be a part of that." Got another guy that you and I both know who's a retired Air Force pilot
Yep.
who owns and operates a restaurant. I was at his restaurant last night, by the way, playing trivia, and
Oh,
he
is that where
runs.
you were doing it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He leads it. Good food, good drinks, good food, but he's phenomenal in that
Yes.
space, and he carries himself with just such humility He's just a fun
Great,
person.
great
Yeah, and then
guy.
he happens to also serve as an interim president of a really large chamber of
He's been an
commerce
interim for a long time, but
for a
anyway.
long time. Yeah, yeah, he's so
Permanently
he
interim.
yeah, we're gonna get him on to
Yep.
spend some time with us. I got a franchise recruiter
Another
who's
one?
never
We
been
did one
he's never
last year.
been a he's never been a huh?
Remember we did for, I mean, we'd do it again because I think it's a good thing to bring up. We did a franchise recruiter our first year.
Did we bring him in? Man, I can't believe
I don't
that.
know if it's the same one. The first one we
Oh,
did was
maybe.
Gary.
Oh, no, this guy's name is Kyle.
Yeah,
So
different. It's
I
okay.
wanted to withhold, but he's near to us. But I really like his view and approach on things. And I only say this to the people listening because whether you're a veteran or not listening to this, I think sometimes we have this grandiose idea that you got to have a ton of money available to you to jump into the franchise space. And there
Mm-mm.
certainly are some that come with
Mm-hmm.
a higher end investment point, but not all of them. And some of them are pretty cool deals. And you can create legacy to pass on to somebody. I've got a friend who was a former Office of Special Investigations agent
Oh,
with the Air
yes.
Force who just wrapped up his career and he willingly stood and just shared some really tough things, Donna.
That's
He just
good.
shared his heart, things he's seen, things he's personally had to do, be a part of. And he said, and finally, I just realized one day I needed help. And I don't know, just listening to him and looking him in the eyes, I just thought, you know what, I'd love for you to come on and share your story because people need to be reminded of that. I got a friend, uh, Donna. He is a retired Air Force officer who very talented individual. Could have probably gone on to find a leadership role in any company. And today he is detailing
I
cars.
remember this guy. You've told us
Yeah,
that we
he
need to bring him on.
we do. He wraps vehicles, and he said, "Jay, I'm responsible only for me. It's Monday to Friday.
So
It's
nice.
it's 9 to 5. I get to be home with my family every night. I get to tap into my creative juices when I'm there, figuring out how to brand somebody's vehicle. Bring to life what they want." Anyways, he's a really good dude. And then I mentioned to you a friend of mine who's a motivational speaker, former Army Black
Black
Hawk
Hawk.
pilot,
Yeah.
just a good lady and listening to her story. So that's some.
That's
And
we
I
also
know
have a
you've got
couple
some.
potential if I can get this committed, a former White House chef.
Oh, come on.
Veteran. Mm-hmm.
I hope they
And,
bring some things in there for me to try out.
oh God, yeah. I don't think we're gonna get that
Oh,
lucky.
oh well, I
I
was
don't think we're
hopeful.
that
That's
lucky.
that's cool. That's
We
cool.
have I'm in works right now with a nonprofit that's actually preserving the Japanese American um, World War II veterans,
Oh,
and they've preserved them through some writing, and they actually reached out to us. There's so many. I said, well, my goodness, yeah. So we're going to be meeting. There's a nonprofit that rescues bulldogs, and then
oh,
they partner them up with various populations, including veterans.
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be meeting with them in the near future. So, um, and there is a laundry list coming. Oh, there's a veteran spouse that's doing a lot of amazing things. We'll be doing a recording with
I'm
her.
really excited for that one. Yeah,
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one.
spouses
And
are a big part of the journey, right? You and I've talked
yeah,
about that
they're
in
the
the past, and we've had
backbone.
some spouses on, but big part of the journey, and we need to
Hmm.
need to make sure we're capturing some of their views on.
I've been on
You
both sides, and I'll tell you,
yeah.
I sometimes felt like I'd rather just be the military person and not the spouse.
Yeah, yeah, and you've shared some of that with me. I know
Woo!
that's true.
That is, I'll tell you, that's some fortitude right there. Like there was many trips to the bathroom to just shed a tear or two. Like what in the
I
hell?
agree.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot in the works right now.
I
There's
got
a,
another one real quick, Don. I got one
yeah,
more.
go for it.
It's somebody we met through our ETAP kind of escapades last year. He is
Ah,
now in Tennessee and he is working in a whiskey distillery. And he
ooh,
he just sent me a lengthy email saying, "Jay, never thought that it would actually come to fruition, even though I kind of teased and said I wanted to do it. And he said, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I love where I'm at
He's
in life.
doing it. I remember him.
Yeah, he's doing it and loving it. And he said, anything you need me for, right? You want to get me on to speak to e-tappers? You want to, talk to me about my journey? So I think we should get him.
If he comes out, he needs to bring a sample for us.
Well, I was trying for food from the White House chef, and you're going straight to the line up a shot.
Well, I mean, that one's a hard. Maybe he'll send it to us. Who knows, right? You never know. I mean, it is the modern times here. Oh, and we're bringing on one of our friends from Big Brother Big Sister.
It's true.
That one's
he has infectious.
Yes,
that's the way I describe him.
Infectious is a good word. Yeah, and it's funny because he's gone to all your ETAP.
He does.
And we talk to him every time he's there. And then finally this time I was like, hey.
Yeah.
And so he was game. And then hopefully.
He's a retired Master Chief.
He's hilarious too.
Yeah, I mean, just an amazing human being. But he really good energy and funny. True.
And if we're lucky, this is going to be your job. You have 2 jobs. This is your job for the season. One is to get our buddy that works for the foundation. No, the other foundation in San Antonio.
Oh. I can. Yeah, that's an easier one for me.
Easier because but he is a man on the go. So Jay's lucky; he has the sticky hands to get him because the rest of us can't get him. And then Gary Sinise Foundation. If you're listening out there, we would love to talk to Gary Sinise. Yeah. Planting a seed,
Gary,
manifesting.
Gary, or my friend at a minimum that is
Jim. Jim can come on too. Yeah. We've talked. We had Ginger. We had his wife.
We did. We had Jim's amazing bride and my dear friend. And...
Can I tell you that is the only podcast that I literally had no words for at one point? You actually wrote me a note, Ezra, and you're like, hey, I don't want to take over the whole thing. And I'm just like, and I'm not even going to get into why. I'll let you guys go listen. You'll figure it out quickly. She's amazing. But I just wasn't weirdly, I'm usually pretty prepared. I did not know her story. Sometimes we do blind podcasts. One of us will have
that's true,
an interview, and the other person will only know very general stuff, which I kind of like. You get to learn. That was the case. I knew generally about Ginger. I didn't know the details. I probably should have checked the details on that one to be better ready, because that's the one that put me at no words for a short time. So
it definitely hurts the heart.
But
it has a beautiful ending.
She's amazing. Yeah. So if you guys get a chance,
her late husband Troy Trojan, gave his life to our country, and great story.
And that story, exactly. So Sure. All right. Well, I think that we probably could talk forever. Oh, you know who the other one was that was really good to listen to? There was 2 others that I thought were or 3 others. Matt Cable's. I mean, that's a whole story by itself. You need to just go listen. This man's a beast, and I mean this in size-wise. He's the kindest person you met, but he's a beast in his size. Yeah. But by all stats, this man should not be on this earth right now.
Sure.
Right?
True.
So y'all need to go find Matt Cable's podcast and listen to it.
That's a good one, too.
And then 2 other ones was Mike Wyatt's. When we were talking about veteran benefits, he knows that guy is so intelligent, and he knows the micro. He's a VSO, a veteran service officer, and he knows everything there is to know about veteran disability and things that you wouldn't even know. Like, he's saying words on there. Like, I'm a nurse, and I'm like, I gotta go look that up. Like, Lord, that man he's smart. But he really gave good information. And then the other one was my friend Tim and the Patriot Art Foundation. And I did a couple of those solo just because of scheduling conflicts. But Tim is a long time friend, and he has a master's in fine arts, and he's an incredible artist. And he just launched his book called The Illumination. I'm totally plugging him on this. And if you are Christian faith and you read a Bible. He actually took the Bible, did artwork to it, and it is throughout this book called The Illumination. Incredible work that he does. So anyways, he's a character anyway. Great. So we had a lot of good people, and we have a lot of good people to come. And I think we just wanted to mark the new year and just say, look, this is where we've been, this is where we are, and this is where we're going.
Yeah, and many thanks to all of you, not only for making it through this episode where Donna and I were just playing tennis, lobbing things
Spitball.
back. But truthfully, I mean, again, whether you're a veteran or not, and you're finding value in listening to these episodes, we're thankful for that. We're thankful for each and every one of you. We want you to know we're not resting on laurels. We are still out there having compelling conversations and finding people with compelling stories. And we want to bring those to you because, we want to open the aperture. We want to open the aperture really wide. We want to get you considering, thinking there may be something that you've been looking for, you don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden you tune into us, you hear an episode, and something grabs a hold of you, and you've got your next, niche passion in life to pursue. And we want to be connectors. It's who Donna and I both are. We are connectors. She's taking it to a whole new level.
That's my
Donna,
title.
Fun. Yeah,
Chief
it is.
Connector.
Yeah, that's true. It's your title. But
yes,
look, this is who we are. It's what we want to do. We always are going to want to hear from you. We would love to hear your ideas. We'd love to have you say, this is something I'm interested in. If y'all could do a future episode on X, not X as in what was formerly known as Twitter. I mean, like whatever topic.
We don't know anything about X.
Yeah, let us know that, and we'll do our diligence to try to bring you that.
Absolutely.
But Donna, a whole new year.
Yep.
In front of us, and excited for the journey ahead, my friend.
Whole new year. All right, everybody. You want to take us out, Jay?
Look, I kind of gave it all to you. I said earlier, hit the smash button and like us, follow us, share us, keep tuning in, engage us in some way as we continue to try to engage you. But more than anything, Donna and I just want you all to have a prosperous new year filled with bountiful opportunity. And look, I ended a session last week with some veterans, and Donna and I say this to you now. Remember who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Remember who you are. You've faced many things in life up to this point, and you've overcome them all. You're going to overcome this one too. We love you. We appreciate you. We look forward to at some point in life crossing paths with you, we hope. But until the next episode, on behalf of our parent podcast company, Coming Home Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Beyond the Frontlines.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frontline, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review.